And the reason that I ask kind of what the dollar numbers are is that it matters more when it's lower because the percentage isn't really as impactful. Whereas if it's significantly higher in terms of dollars, you have a lot more to work with. So if it's 500,000, versus 50,000,
Hmm.
it's significantly different.
I'm looking at one deal that I have right now. It's a smaller deal, but it fits well with, I guess, my business and some other stuff to add in. So I've got it to a point. I've talked to the seller about structuring it more on the seller finance earn-out position, probably a little bit more than I want. But my thought was just if it can support, I guess, what the financials coming in to pay it. So my question is on the margin though for that, just so I'm not giving too much up front or on the payments monthly, roughly what percentage should I leave to bake in maybe either for expenses that I may not be thinking about, whether it's like taxes or other stuff for growth. I'm just trying to get a rough estimate on a margin so my seller financing slash earnout is not, I'm not being overly aggressive and having to dip in to find the money somewhere else.
Yeah, tell me just a little bit more about what the numbers look like, just roughly.
Okay, so this one's it's definitely on the smaller end. So he's got roughly, I would say it's right at 50,000 um on the cash flow. I guess what we came to terms with some of the equipment and some other stuff in there that versus me buying it from my own place. So it just we're looking at 200,000. So my thought was splitting it up over 4 years. We're roughly at 40. So it's kind of hitting that 40,000. So 10,000 was a huge deal, but then I add in also with the earn out, then I was wanting to make sure I just wasn't giving more than what I wanted to for it.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and the reason that I ask kind of what the dollar numbers are is that it matters more when it's lower because the percentage isn't really as impactful. Whereas if it's significantly higher in terms of dollars, you have a lot more to work with. So if it's 500,000, versus 50,000,
Hmm.
it's significantly different. So if you're only going to be left with 10,000, then the next thing that I would be looking at is, do you believe that there's anything that you're going to do once you take over that will significantly impact cash flow in a positive way? And is there anything that you believe is a potential threat, like most of the business comes from word of mouth or relationships or things like that, where there's not a predictable selling system that you can increase ad budget to or marketing budget to increase sales? Because if there's, or is there an opportunity like a price increase that you don't believe would completely, because it's been a long time, wouldn't adversely impact the people that you're selling to? Those are the questions I'd be asking there. 10K is not a lot. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with 15. I know that doesn't sound like it's much of a difference, but it is another 10%. So you're talking about 30% margin versus 20% uh, of what might change. So it's going to be what you feel comfortable with, but those are the things because I wouldn't feel bad about 40 or even 45 if I was like, oh, they've never sent an email, they don't have any customer relationship management thing in, they haven't raised prices in 7 years, all of those things. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I feel like we'll make that up pretty quickly, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and that was again, it was just more like I don't know if you could call it like a bolt-on and where I kind of merged with my business. I felt comfortable with the services I have here. They don't have physical therapy, so I was poised for setting it up so I could go in there and for the most part either double or triple what was cash flowing. So that was where I
Yeah.
was looking at the earn out to pay for.
So I'd feel less. I would feel less uncomfortable with 40 on a 50K deal there. The 10K is seems like it's a decent margin.
Okay. And one concern for the seller, and I don't know if this is even worth messing with on this, just because even the deal itself is kind of like I don't want to get in a headache, but is he had an IDL loan that he was going to keep the 140,000 time wise, and or even I looked on Chat GPT just trying to let CSS. So is that something you've seen anyone pursue to take over and use it to,
Yeah, we have
I
one
guess,
right now that basically just it's generally wrapped versus assumed.
okay, gotcha.